Good day, dear students. In the previous class, you were listening to the landscape and stagnation on the banks of the river Pavaratty, and especially relating to Pernambuco and its sugar factories, and how the stagnation is evident in every walk of life, especially the hospitals and also the asylum and so many places he mentions. So these places are like dirty laundry, stuffy, dirty laundry. He uses these terms. These are very strong terms to describe the life of people. But even then he does that because this is exactly how it looks like, even though people think otherwise. So here we will start the next few lines, maybe the last few stanzas. It is there, with their backs to the river, that the city's cultured families, cultured in double inverted commas, brood over the fast eggs of their prose. In the complete peace of their kitchens, they viciously stir their pots of sticky indolence. So here, they brood over the fast eggs of their prose. He uses so many terms to describe these people. And these terms need not be something that you will understand at times, but he is being extremely postmodern in his attitude. So he says that about the landscape and also about the palaces where there is decadence or there is stagnation, mold and mistletoe. All these are evident, which shows that they are stagnant. And now he speaks of the people with their backs to the river. With their backs to the river can also be something else which we can think of. Usually, a riverside property is the dream of any person. If you had the money and if you had the chance, you would buy a property near a river where you can really indulge yourself. And only when you do that, you can understand how very good it is, how very refreshing it is. And you need not stay on in your veranda, and when you look out, you find the veranda of the other person's house. That's how all our streets are. But suppose you get the opportunity to get a house on the riverside, you will be extremely happy. And your house is safely away from the river, and you can hear the sound of the river flowing at night when you open the windows. And there is nothing to hinder your view from where you are, from the house, and you can see the stars shining in the sky from where you are sitting and from the open window, and the sound of the water gurgling along. It's such a joyful sound, and that is the dream of any person. And sometimes we just can't afford to buy it because it is too costly, and the rich makes a bid for it. But now, why do they buy a property like that? Because they feel that it is really posh and it is exclusive, and so there is no neighbor to peep to their at their gate, or to when they sit in their veranda, they will not be looking at the face of their neighbor in the opposite side. That is indeed having privacy. Maybe because they pay a lot of money to have such a kind of privacy. But now that they had their dream of a riverside property, they sit with their backs to the river. They do not appreciate the now decaying river because there is nothing to see in the river now. The river is so decayed. There is no sound of the gurgling river. There is no the happy joyous sound of the river flowing. And you will find that it is as if they have nothing to look at. So why should they turn towards this dirty river? They close all the windows, they close all the shutters because only dirty smell is coming from that river. So once upon a time it was a golden property, but now they turn their backs to the river. It can also mean that they have turned back to nature, turned away from nature. And away from nature means they don't want to be hindered by the way the river was contaminated, and they do not want to take any step to improve that or to clear the waters of the river. And they are not appreciating the now decaying river. They have an elaborate kitchen, and there is no scarcity at all in the kitchen, and it is peaceful. Only if you have scarcity, you will be trying to use whatever things that are there, and you will have a lot of things to do in the kitchen. But now there is no scarcity, it is peaceful, and maybe they don't have enough people in the house, so that the kitchen is almost free. And so they continue with their life of habitual laziness. Habitual laziness because they have money to spare, more money and more to spare, and so they have the indulgence, and they can have anything they want, and now there is nothing they need more in life, and so they don't care for life, or even having too much cooking in the kitchen. And now there is the kitchen is peaceful. This is what he says, and he calls them the city's cultured families. They brood over fast eggs. They brood over fast eggs is again another point that we have to we need more explanation for. The landscape of the captivity river is taking new shape in this stanza. Life of the rich, the privileged is portrayed. The city's so-called cultured families. With these two terms, the poet Cabral is indeed pointing his fingers at the so-called cultured families of Pernambuco, who owns most of the sugar factories, and now he is just putting them beside this river which is running dirty. So why is he putting these cultured families? The term cultured is in double inverted commas, which shows that they consider themselves cultured. And so these cultured families, they are letting the river run dirty. So is it part of the culture to run the river, to let the river run dirty? This is one question that he is not asking, but which is very much evident there. And he says that these families brood over the fast eggs of their prose. Fast eggs of their prose can also be terms which mean that they brood over. A hen will have to sit on the eggs for a certain number of days, maybe 21 days, or it depends upon the type of fowl that you have. And naturally, whatever the hen does, it will not speed up the process of the chicks coming out of the egg earlier. Maybe a day earlier, but not much earlier. So naturally, the hen will have to turn it this side and that side, and she broods over it. And these cultured families are brooding over the first fast eggs of their prose. Maybe Cabral is using that in order to indicate the way they speak with their words, and speak the words in such a brooding manner, as if though they have a lot to think about. And in the complete peace of their kitchens, they viciously stir their pots of sticky indolence. They viciously stir the pot of maybe stew. I expected a word to come as stew, but sticky. After sticky comes the word indolence. I thought it is a stew, sticky stew, or sticky some sweet or something. But now he uses a term utterly removing or breaking up our imagination, and brings in a word indolence. And it is a habitual laziness, a sloth, or indolence means sloth or habitual laziness. So these people have become so very lazy, and they are brooding over something, or their prose, their way of speaking. But in a way, he is bringing these people, and the way they are being equated to a lot of people who, the hen, brooding hen, and also making pots of sticky something, maybe porridge. Porridge is something that you can make quite easily. Sticky porridge is a term that you actually associate with the pot and stirring and sticky. Naturally expect a porridge, but he uses the term indolence, and that means habitual laziness. That word means, and equate that with the stirring and the stickiness, which means that it is so glued like, and there is that quality. Only very few people will like that kind of food, but that's the way their life is because they are the so-called cultured families. There is no changing them. They are so stagnant, and they do not mind the river running dirty behind, which they can see from their dining room windows. But it goes by them, and they take it as part of the scenery. It was part of the scenery that made them have houses near this river and look out through the glass window. But now the river is decayed, they have just ignored the river, and the river is so dirty. So here he poses another question. Could the river's water be the fruit of some trees? Why did it seem like ripened water? Why the flies always above it as if about to land? So next he poses another question. He jumps from one question to another, and he takes us to unexpected words and shakes us from our stagnation. Okay, don't be stagnant thinking that this poem is going on like meandering like anything like the river, and it is slow moving, and suddenly we are shaken out of that that indolence by creating an imagery and also putting in a word here and there, which really makes us shake our head and look at the poem once again. So he says, could the river's water be the fruit of some trees? Why did it seem like ripened water? Why the flies always above it as if about to land? So he wonders, could the river's water be the fruit of some trees? The river's water is, we know what it is. So why did it seem like ripened water? Why did this water seem ripened water, or the fruit of some trees? They look like some ripened waters. Water ripening is another word or term that we have to understand and look into quite easily, because he uses those terms in a manner to let us know that water can also be ripened water. Why the flies always above it as if about to land? Why do you find the flies above it as if they are about to land? About to land means they are about to sit on the fruit. So Cabral poses some questions here, unlike the earlier thoughtful movement. So these questions are indeed deep-rooted. They are these deep-rooted anxiety of man, and they are expressed by the poet. So naturally, you find that there are the ripened waters, these fruits, the ripened waters of the river. So these are in a way things that make you wonder whether you can eat this fruit or not. They look like ripened water, and this tree is near this river which is contaminated, and this tree will be getting water from this river and will be taking it to the fruits, so will it be edible? So this kind of anxiety is expressed by the poet. Maybe the deep-rooted anxiety of man about the stagnation of the river, about the contamination of the river. So naturally they have started thinking about their children. They have started thinking about a lot of things. And so here is something that is there in the mind of all of us concerning the anxiety for our future generation, expressed by Cabral through these lines. So dear students, you just take note of this. He is speaking not just for himself but also for you and for your generation and the generations to come. So in a way, this is a remarkable enough stanza. So let's see that the poet wonders if the water of the river is the fruit of some trees. Using the term ripened water, Cabral points out to the tree which had become stagnant and produce fruits that are not tasty. Suppose you have a water fruit or a fruit which has got only water, we know that it is not edible unless it is sugary water. The flies above it also shows the unhealthy condition of the river and its bank. That is, the river is contaminated, the water from the river had ripened the fruits of the trees, and even the flies are in two minds as to whether they should settle on the fruit or not, because they are attracted by the color of the fruit, but when they reach the fruit there is no smell coming, no fruity smell coming. So the flies are attracted by the color and smell of the fruit, and that's why they start eating the fruit. But now the color is there but no smell. Maybe because of that the flies are above it, but they have no idea whether they should land or not. Then they are in two minds about it. So the flies are always above it, as if about to land. They have not landed, they are about to land. They are all around it. The flies always above this water, and always above this fruit which is like ripened water. But somehow or other something prevents them from going on to this fruit to eat the fruit. Maybe they understand that the smell is not coming, maybe the fruit is not healthy enough for them. So if a fly understands so much, how much should a human being understand about the condition of the river and the trees and the fruits it bears. So the contamination of the river is not restricted to the landscaping or the landscape of the river alone, but this is for all those rivers which had become so stagnant. Again, in the last stanza of the poem, did any part of the river ever cascade in joy? Was it ever anyway a song or fountain? Why then were its eyes painted blue on maps? So this is a remarkable and even very touching lines from a poet who has only a saddened heart for the Pavaratty river. Did any part of the river ever cascade in joy? You have to be there on the banks of a river to understand these lines. Only then you will understand how it is. You must have been to any place near a stream or a river. You need not be by the river, but it can also be a stream or a brook from the wood or even the forest coming along, and you can see the ripples of the water flowing, and maybe when there is some bunch of grass, a tuft of grass in the middle of the river, it flows around it and makes a sound, and you have to listen to that river when at night when all sounds stop, and you will be away from the noise the human beings create, and then this sound of the river, the running brook will be the running brook is indeed very it's a joyous sound. It brings in a lot of happiness to the listener, and the poet now wonders, did any part of the river ever cascade in joy? Cascading means flowing from a higher level to a lower level, and that is a beautiful sight and sound. Maybe it's not roaring. We are not speaking about the roaring times of the rainy season, but just before that rainy season there is a summer rains, and the rivers will be full and the cascades will also be flowing. You have silver cascade, you have any number of cascades near these places, these watery places. And was it ever did it ever cascade in joy? That cascading is regarded as a joyous expression of the river, a happy occasion or a happy response of the river, and because it is running straight to this sea, and so many poets put in a lot of imagery like the river trying to go and join its lover, and finally it is so very happy, so the running is speedy. That kind of imagery comes in so many poems in so many languages also. So was it ever anywhere a song or fountain? So he says, was it ever a song, not joyful running, but song, quite flowing, and also a fountain, occasional fountains coming up and sprouting its water everywhere. Was it ever anywhere a song or fountain? Why then were its eyes painted blue on maps? So he begins this last stanza of the poem with a question. Was there ever a time when this river appeared happy, full of bubbling water, cascades, fountain. So these words conjures up, it brings to mind magically the images of joy, song, fountain, but now the condition is worse. No resemblance at all to the original river. And now the poet wonders, why then is it painted blue on maps? Because if you take the geographical features of a country, you will find the mountains marked in almost yellowish and reddish in color, and the forest area in green, and even the land, arable land also in green color, and you will find thin streams or thin lines of blue, which indicates the presence of a river. So why then is it painted blue on maps? There you will find rivers in blue denoting the pure water of the river. This is how the map people have. Then the color scheme also, the color code also will be given in a small box near that near your atlas, near one side of your atlas, and the measurement of that also will be given. So you check your atlas and find how it is, the physical features of a country. Suppose you take the physical features of India, you will find the mountain regions, the forest area, the grasslands. They are all have different colors, and the blue color is indicative of the rivers or the water bodies, not just rivers but water bodies, and including lake also sometimes. And so the blue color is indicative of the water, free flowing water, and it also is a color of pure water. But in corrected maps, what I feel is that they should change the color of this contaminated river from blue to maybe black or brown. Only then it will be relevant. Otherwise, people will still think that the river is still pure, and it is still flowing like the blue river as it had been once upon a time. Only when you reach the river you will know that it is contaminated to such an extent that you can't even reach the banks of the river. It is so dirty. So in a way the poet is thinking very sadly. He asks this question: did any part of the river ever cascade in joy? Was this river happy once upon a time? Was this river young once upon a time? Was this river naughty once upon a time? All these are indicated by the cascade in joy, the terms cascade in joy, then song or fountain. All these are terms which indicate the images of a river as a young girl or as a young adult. And was there time for this river to be all this? And now this river has no resemblance at all to the origin, if there was a time like that. So Cabral is in a way wondering whether this river was once upon a time like this. And maybe once upon a time this river must have been like that. But we, people of this generation, do not have the privilege to see those happy occasions. We can see only this degrading condition of the river. So this is a question which he poses to all the rivers that are contaminated the world over, and the images that he puts in with a few strokes of his words, his pen, tell us that he had deeply thought about the river and also about the condition of the river. So here you find that the poet is a person who can think into the future and also back into the past. So a question that requires careful thoughts. Cabral poses this question defiantly at the world: take care of your river, do not pollute it. The messages in the poem, from the poem, are many. So you can have these messages from the poem, and these messages are many. Cabral and the place Pernambuco and the river Pavaratty are not the culprits. So we have to find the real culprits, maybe the human beings. So do you ever take care of the river next to you, if there is a river there? Or do you leave it to another person or the authorities or other people to understand the condition and also to know and how to make them really free flowing? So the river Pernambuco and the place around it are now a place which had become so stagnant. So not just the river but also the people are so stagnant. And so he is giving us an indication of the places and people and the institutions which have become so stagnant. So it is not just about the river Pavaratty or even Pernambuco or even the landscape around that river. Not just that, it is more about a lot of things. But this river makes it an occasion for him to think deeply and highly of other things of the world over and about the situation in certain things, certain situations, when certain institutions where there should not be any stagnation. There should be growth, there should be new ideas, there should be happiness, free flowing water, and there should be joy, and even again there should be a song or fountain. All these are things that will make your life at ease and will make you feel that you are living in a world and which the world which you care about. That is also another situation that Cabral points out, and which is indeed pointed out in so many terms. So if you take the poem as such, you have a lot of situations here. Means the river itself is there. So many imagery, so dirty imagery. Sometimes you don't feel like that it's a poem, because our idea of a poem is to enjoy something beautiful. But this poem is taking us through all the dirt and squalor, and maybe when you reach the final lines, you want to read the former lines to understand the situation, and then make us aware of the present situation of the river. So in that manner, we can say that Cabral had successfully written or passed on the idea that contaminating a river will affect not just you but the world also. So that stagnation is going to cause certain problems, and those problems will require a lot of attention. And so before you have a problem to such a great proportion, you should try to change the situation as quickly as possible. So that is again another message that we have come across through this poem. So the landscape of the Pavaratty river is the apt title for the poem, because Cabral takes us through the river bank and the places the river flows through, giving us a picture of the landscape of these places and make us aware of the type of people who live there and how this contamination is caused. He is not blaming anybody. He is just describing it in so clear terms that we feel the need to clean that river. Otherwise it is going to be so very dirty. And you know that once the river is dirty, it will start polluting whatever is there. If you have a well next to the in your house, in your plot, well water will also be contaminated. So in a way, you have to understand that the healthy aspect of a river is that which makes the people also healthy. So we'll meet again in the next few classes, of course, but we don't have many classes left. Maybe this is the last class from the poetry section, but we have a lot of portions to go through. Okay, don't think that the portions are over. It's not yet over. We have to discuss certain topics like appreciation of a poem, an unknown poem, and the literary terms that you have done. All these should be discussed properly. So till then, have a nice time and enjoy your day.